Hello and welcome to Vox Markets. I'm John Hewman and I'm delighted to be joined today by Stefan Bernstein, new Chief Executive of Greenland-focused mining exploration company GreenRoc. Welcome, Stefan.
Thank you, John.
So many congratulations, of course, on your appointment. It seems you've already been busy with some exciting updates on your major projects since you joined over the last few weeks. Talk us through them.
Yes, sure. So we have two main projects in Greenland. They both concern critical raw materials, so commodities that the world really is in big need for. And one of them is titanium up in North Greenland, and the other one is graphite, which we have in South Greenland. And both the projects we have proceeded over the past couple of years here. We had a drill program last year on both projects. And we're continuing drilling this year and arrived at maiden resource estimates here in the spring this year for both projects.
Excellent. So we'll talk more about those very shortly and your plans to develop those projects. But first of all, perhaps you could tell us about your background. You've had a very long career in Greenland's mining industry. Tell us about it and how you eventually came to find yourself at GreenRoc. Yes.
So actually, this July, it is 35 years since I first took up my first appointment with a mineral exploration company in Greenland. That was a Canadian company called Platinova in those days. And that really was a revelation for me. I was just struck by the beauty of the country, this unique Inuit culture, and also the excitement of the business of mineral exploration. So I've been working there ever since. And it's been a combination, both of research. I've been really involved with Greenland geology and both research and exploration since then. Took off every year leave of absence from my positions as researcher to work for mining companies. So I was really lucky during those appointments or working jobs I had with the exploration industry that I was joining the teams that discovered a couple of big deposits in Greenland. There's the Skaergård, world famous platinum, gold, palladium deposit at Skaergård, and then the Citronfjord lead zinc deposit. And then in 2007, while I was still working as a senior researcher at the Geological Survey of Denmark and Greenland, I, with two geologist friends from the UK, decided to go private. So we founded Avanar Exploration, which was then a junior exploration company, and had a great time working with our investors, working in exploration projects in Greenland, and made two important discoveries with our company then. Lastly, 6 years ago, I went back to the survey, worked as head of department for a lot of really good and brilliant scientists there. And then one day, the phone called and or rang, and then I picked it up, and it was a guy I knew from GreenRoc, and he said, we have this company, we're looking for a new CEO. I first thought, well, I got this well-paid job with the government. I've been job for life. But then I looked into a bit more what GreenRoc was about, and it turned out just to be too tempting for me. So I jumped.
Yeah, they do seem like very exciting projects. I wanted to talk a bit about Greenland. You obviously, as you just said, worked there for a very long time, but it's a beautiful, resource-rich place. But tell us a bit about the country and its geology and how the mining industry is developing there, with obviously GreenRoc an important part of that.
Yeah, so Greenland really is a underexplored country. It has a great geographical position. It lies midway between Northern Europe and Europe and North America, and I would say that it contains all the geological building stones of the prolific mining countries such as Australia, Canada, South Africa. Spans a long history, basically all of Earth's history. It's of course a lot smaller, but simply because it's been sort of tucked away up in the north, people haven't really explored it to any great extent. But it has had some quite good mines running there. In fact, we have one of them, the graphite mine, was just a tiny, small little mine that closed about 100 years ago. But there were two major mining operations that actually turned out quite profitable. There was the Greenland mine in South Greenland that closed about 30 years ago. And then also the lead zinc mine ran by Cominco up on the north. So it's a great mining country because of the geology. It's underexplored. It has a very transparent legislation, political stability, very pro-mining. The people are simply looking at mining as being another source of income for the country. Could be a great way to diversify the Greenland economy away from, or in addition to, fishing and tourism. So, and then I may add one more thing about Greenland. A lot of people think that Greenland is very difficult to access and very expensive. And, you know, in some ways it is, but it has a great advantage that it has a lot of deep water fjords that are ice-free most of the year, if not all of the year, depending on where you are in Greenland. So while the investments in the beginning can be a little higher than working in Canada or Scandinavia, when you get to construction and mining operations, it's great because you have big ship access to most of the country year round.
Absolutely. You mentioned that you know, mining had sort of was going through a bit of a resurgence, having sort of seen some mines shut several years ago. Can you talk us through why you think that's happening? I think you mentioned, you know, graphite and titanium as being obviously the sort of key planned output of your projects. These are important metals, I understand, particularly as the world moves towards, in particular, the electrification of motoring and net zero. Talk us through the sort of demand drivers that you're hoping to tap into.
Well, I mean, most importantly here is, of course, the graphite. Titanium is important also. It has a lot of various applications, and it's kind of an overseen commodity. What we have in the titanium sand is an easily mined commodity that has a big bulk market. But I'd like to speak a bit more about the graphite, because that's a market that really is set to grow enormously over the coming years. A little bit of background here. Every electric vehicle driving around on our streets today contain between 30 and 60 kilograms of graphite. And the International Energy Agency has a forecast that says that the demand for graphite is going to increase 25 times between 2020 and 2040. So there'll be a huge requirement to put new lines in production over the coming years. So that's why we think that our Amitsoq graphite project is a fantastic project and has a huge upside. We already have a resource there of a bit more than 8 million tons, grading at nearly 20% contained graphite, which is like one of the top highest graphite grades in the world. So that means that contained graphite content is 1.6 million tons. And with the drilling we are undertaking this summer here, and a bit of background studies on environmental impact assessment, social impact assessment, and all of those, we expect to be able to fast track that into leading into an exploitation permit and put it into production, you know, as soon as possible to meet those demands.
That was actually my next question. So your job, you've been very specifically appointed to lead the company through to production. So can you explain, you know, where the projects are now, the steps you need to go through with those projects to take them to production, and the challenges that you face in doing so?
Yes. So, well, they have to be drilled still in order to increase and demonstrate further the resource we have. We need to conduct some further test work. We already have shown through a German graphite expert, Pro Graphite they're called, They have tested the ore and shown that it can easily be processed to a high purity and is a battery grade, so that's great for us. The next steps are, of course, first of all, we need to have an exploitation permit once we have established how much we have. And to get there, we need, of course, to go on with our assessments studies that I just mentioned. We are in dialogue with the local communities and also with the government in Nuuk. We have really good connections, or what do you call it? We have good relations to both the community and the government. And then while we're doing that, in parallel, we'll be seeking off-takers and potential partners in order to get not only, of course, contracts for off-takers to the product, but also financing probably the establishing the mining operations.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, it sounds like an absolutely fantastic opportunity. Really exciting times for the company, really important things you're doing. Thank you so much for talking to us, and I wish you the very best of luck in your new role.
Thank you so much, John.
Thank you.